I had a heat stroke my freshman year, and after that heat stroke, I had seizures through the rest of my high school career.
Really?
And that started down Xanax and Zoloft and prescription pills that were being given to me to fix seizures.
Highly recommended to me from one of the greatest human beings I know, Miss Danny Smith. Ever since I met her, she's been an absolute light in my life. So anybody she puts on my radar, I'm absolutely all ears for. So it's a pleasure to sit down with you, Mr. Kenny Whitacre. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing really good. We just got done training and doing sauna work. And so, connecting before something like this, I think is real fun and enjoyable. So it was cool to get with the guys this morning and start this.
Yeah, anytime I can grab a workout or a run with somebody before a podcast episode, it's just always, you can always go just a little bit deeper. It's nice having your first conversation with somebody, like opening up an episode, but it's also good to get a little bit of that pre-stuff and then know kind of where you're going.
Yeah.
First of all, before we get started, I want to give a big shout out to Squatch Gem. They made this possible, us being able to do these special episodes of I Am Redemption, and the podcast studio Austin hooking us up for being in here. So shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for hosting I Am Redemption. We appreciate y'all greatly. Bro, when Danny first told me about you, she immediately started telling me about all these similarities we have in our stories, and we have quite a few. Now you've different journeys, but kind of a lot of the same. So, my story is very much, prison addiction, painkillers, opiates, all that kind of stuff, losing my way. And then, thankfully discovering the beautiful city of Austin, the running community, the fitness community, transformed my life. And so what did your whole kind of stuff look like? Obviously, I don't think you started here in Austin. And where did your story kind of start?
Multi-sport in college. That was my addiction time. So I was playing sport and also in heavily prescription pills. So I got sober at the end of 23, almost 24, I got sober. When I started that journey, I started bodybuilding and diving in pretty hard to body mastery. Okay. So I think I got sober through body mastery into bodybuilding and the healthy lifestyle and things like that. Since then, I've dove really hard into the self-work, so then human performance. Outside of food sets and reps, there's a whole lot more in this body mastery side of things. So over the last decade, I've really dove hard into human performance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were an athlete your whole life?
Yeah, man. I grew up in a city north of Dallas.
Okay.
Little lake town, and I knew all of the seasons pretty much by sport, soccer, football, baseball, basketball.
Right.
Those just repeated all of my life.
Right.
Grew up in a little town where the city league was everything. Every Saturday, we always played a little league game. I grew up with the same 8 dudes. We played every sport, just rinse and repeat. We all graduated together, got Lettermans together. Yeah, I grew up in little Texas town. Friday Night Lights. That was my life growing up.
Really? So somebody sees that and sees this, this upbringing with sports and recreation and fun and camaraderie with friends and stuff like that. How and where? Number one, what were your main sports as you got into college?
Yeah, I went to college on a football and track scholarship.
Okay.
Got hurt in football. Was dating a cheerleader at the time, and she kind of welcomed me out to cheerleading, and cheerleading ended up taking off, so I ran track and cheered through the rest of my college career. That was not my original growing up. Baseball was my everything growing up, but I got real good. I think when you partner athleticism and pain pills, football kind of is where you land. Yeah. I didn't feel pain at that time. I'm going to be honest with you. That world, I was just a numb zombie playing sport as a teenager. But I connected it with performance. I was a good student. I was a good athlete. I was able to kind of be a functional addict, if whatever that statement is. That started at an early age for me. And I learned performance. My dad really rewarded performing, good grades, performing, good sport, performing, every sport letter, performing. That's what I got rewarded for.
Gotcha.
And so then I just kind of sent that as I grew up, was perform for love is what I ultimately connected that to.
So for you, the original initiation to you in addiction was you just kind of popping painkillers because that's what everyone else was doing, or did it come from an injury?
So I was actually having seizures at the time. Through high school, I had a heat stroke my freshman year, and after that heat stroke, I had seizures through the rest of my high school career.
Really?
And that started down Xanax and Zoloft and prescription pills that were being given to me to fix seizures. And then as the seizures kind of stopped as I transitioned life into college and my lifestyle changed, the addiction didn't stop. I'd grown up from 15 to 18 years old on heavy amounts of prescription pills. And then when that stopped, that addiction hadn't stopped. I mean, I had completely become functional in that realm. I had friends in that realm. I was going to school. I was performing. I was getting scholarships. I was doing all those things, but I was still heavily addicted to prescription pills. Yeah.
Right. I know one thing, I got in a very bad car accident my junior year, and that's why basketball became not a thing anymore. But basketball was my absolute identity growing up. Yeah. I was a ball player. Yeah. And I remember I got in this bad car accident, and then they put me on painkillers. And at the time, I wasn't a partier. I was an athlete. Yeah. But I started taking the pills, and for years, my mom held on to that. Yep. And was like, that's the reason that you became an addict is because I let you be on those painkillers. I'm like, it's definitely not that, I promise. But I'm curious of, what does that do to us in those teenage years?
For sure.
With your mental 100%. Pathways and all that stuff, and you start introducing those drugs into your system, then
yes.
I think it became very normal for me a little bit later in life where it was like I reintroduced those drugs as recreation, and it was like, oh, I'm myself now.
Yeah.
I can go out, perform. I don't have anxiety. I don't have this. I don't have that.
Yeah.
So it was a very natural thing. So I'm curious as to what that did to us, if that's what, kind of laid the foundation for us in becoming a problem later, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think it was definitely a catalyst for me spending heavy amounts of time learning how to use my brain chemicals later as an adult for benefit. So we were talking with a gentleman earlier today where he's not necessarily paying himself in his business. Mm-hmm. And I said that was a huge miss because we're missing the opportunity for that dopamine hit of paying ourselves for those 4 a.m. hours, for those midnight days, for those types of things. And so I understood that cold plunge. I understood that breath work. I understood that nervous system regulation. All of those things were actually heading towards good brain chemicals. Mm-hmm. And so then if I could learn how to put good brain chemicals into my life due to my daily habits, then all of a sudden human performance kind of became the pendulum re-swung.
Yeah.
I was in those negative brain chemicals with addiction and things like that, but the pendulum re-swung, and now I do breath work daily. I sit in the cold plunge daily. I sauna daily. My phrase is we should do hard shit. And that's directly connected to our brain chemicals and the fact that I run the show, not my body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I use those brain chemicals now as an adult in my coaching, especially to get people to start that momentum,
right?
Get that thing going towards the positive direction. Yeah.
Dude, you have I love the way that you kind of look at, you identified that you had an issue, and I think you approached it very differently than a lot of people approach addiction or anything like that. And you were talking a little bit before about body mastery and all that. And you said something for me. We were on a run the other day on Saturday, and you said something that immediately clicked for me. And you basically broke down addiction recovery into an equation. And you were like, well, then I understood that this plus this didn't equal this. And you do a much better job. How did you say it exactly?
Yeah. So as I started getting into personal coaching, I started getting around people who shared my addiction but had different life results. Mm-hmm. So maybe I got around the person who was also addicted to something, but they were extremely successful in business. So then all of a sudden that framework of like drug addicts aren't good at business, well, that got broken. Well, then I started getting around professional athletes, and I saw professional athletes who also had addictions. And so then that framework of like addictions can't lead to physical performance, that framework also got broken down. So then I recognized that like, oh, we all just share different, our lives are just put together in different alignment, different equations. Mm-hmm. And realistically, the guy who's 6'6" and 260 pounds can have an addiction and physically perform because he's just genetically an animal. Mm-hmm. So that's a different equation than other people have.
Yeah.
Or the business guy, maybe his parents are very successful, and so they were given a low interest loan to him, and so he was able to start a business and do business success, but still heavily addicted. Different equation than other people have.
Right.
And so if I can look at the addict and not say that the drug is the problem, it's the rest of the equation that allows your drug use to be detrimental to your life. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, if we start working on the other things other than the drug addiction, all of a sudden the drug addiction loses its power on you because you iron out all the other areas of your life that are keeping you in that just cycle of addiction.
Right.
And so sleeping, nutrition, gut health, exercise, breath work, cold plunge, positive circle. We talk a lot about men's group. All of a sudden you have communal accountability. All of a sudden you start looking at the equations of our life, how we relationship. All of a sudden we relationship in soul, not an ego. All of a sudden the equation starts getting adjusted and the addiction loses its hooks. Mm-hmm. But if we go to the addiction That's the only thing we can freaking focus on.
Yep.
We talk about it. You're around, you go to AA, and then that's all the people that you're talking about. It's just this cycle of more detrimental equations.
Yeah.
So if we can go at it at the other parts of our life, I teach what I call the human SOP. It's 8 personal pillars of our life that ultimately give us the ability that if we can look at these pillars in our life, we can direct towards the direction that we want and away from the areas that we don't want.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, you broke that down, and it was, it's an equation. So it's one of the simplest forms of something you think about. And I go through my, 12 treatment centers and years of trying to get sober and addiction. And, first you go the mental health route, then you go the spiritual route, then you go the addiction route. And then there's all these terminology and it's a fucking lot. It's a lot. And it's a lot of like, is it MDMR or do I mindfulness? Like there's so many different options out here. But then if somebody just breaks it down to you basically to like, hey, this is an equation. Are you not seeing that this plus this equals you getting high? This plus this equals you don't. This minus this equals, then it's like, oh man, like that's such a complex but simple way to break it down. It makes it so much more simpler.
Yep.
Where it's you can't argue with the numbers of anything of the equation.
Yes.
So I think that's beautiful, and I think we live in a very cool time right now where I think the internet, social media has kind of changed the game with how people start to look at things and poke holes and stuff and do all these things. But at the end of the day, if you find that something or that way of looking at something and it helps you understand it in a better way so you can actually comprehend, I don't give a fuck how you get it. I don't care if you find it through God, the 12 steps, through an equation, whatever. As long as you got it, you got it.
Agreed.
I was trying to break down, I was having a conversation on a podcast I did weeks ago, and we were talking, it was the God is a concept and everything. And one of my big hangups that I talk about all the time is where I get hung up is religion.
Okay.
Once we start introducing like man-made religion, that's where I start seeing holes in things, and then I start questioning faith and all these things. But the way that I've been able to kind of break it down in my head and start thinking about it was like, first of all, I don't know that God is a concept that man's simple brain can even begin to understand. But what if, just because you grew up in that region and you're Muslim, or here you're Christian, or here you're Catholic, or whatever it is, it's just filtered down in a way that you're able to understand it through your dialect, through your people, through your culture, through all that, but you still understand the concept of God. Now, obviously, the stories are a little bit different in each one, but it's all the same God concept. And so I've never gotten hung up on, I don't care if you're Christian, Catholic, whatever. If you believe in God, you believe in God. And so I think it's like working out, it's like religion, or it's like recovery. Like you find those cues or those things that help you understand this deep concept in a much better way. And so being able to explain you a bench press or this person a bench press, there's some cue that eventually I'll be able to give to somebody. They're like, oh, that's what you do. Now it makes sense. And so I just think we live in a really cool time where that's a thing now. And people are more open to that. Maybe it's microdosing with mushroom, like whatever it is for you, man. If you find your path, stick to that shit. What was it for you? So if you would, like, if you could take me back and paint a picture of like your rock bottom addiction wise, like, I mean, you're a college athlete, all these things, you look like you got your shit together, but what does rock bottom look like for you at that time?
Yeah, the aha moment, I remember sitting in anatomy and physiology at Tech. I was chairing at Tech at the time. And the A&P is a big classroom. It's like a big, giant movie theater. And there's 3 movie screens, and then you probably have 1,100 people or so in the class for Texas Tech. I mean, it's a huge campus. And so I'm sitting there, and I can't sit still. I remember getting up probably 3 or 4 times in a 90-minute class to go to the bathroom and do bumps of cocaine. And I had my own place. I was bartending at the time. I was in the nightlife. I was really active in using with the cheer team there. I was really I was now socially connecting my addiction to my social circle. I was able to still perform on the cheer team, but party with them. I was still able to party with them, but still make enough for a living to pay for my own place. I was still doing all of that and still had enough grades. If you looked at my equation, the end result was some version of success, but I was empty. I was going through a cycle of drinking at night to be able to fall asleep, and then cocaine in the morning just to be able to get up. And that cycle went for probably 18 months. And a lot of my life, I think, due to the desire to be good at sport, I've been good at future projecting. If I do this now, this will be the result that I get later. Sport, athletic performance, all of those things are like, work out now and it'll serve me later. Mm-hmm. Well, I did that future projection of, okay, let's do this another 18 months. Will I be any closer to where I want to be? Really, where my soul was calling me to be? No, I was recognizing I was going to be even farther away. So I was empty.
Where do you feel at that time your soul was calling you to be? Just the best athlete, best student, best you could be? Or did you feel like you had a calling?
I think at that time my calling was still connected to my own personal performance. So I did want a business. I did want to, at that time, get into a relationship that was healthy. At that time, 23, turning 24, I wanted to be married and have kids. I wanted to live. At that time, the American dream was still pretty tangible. And so I wanted that solopreneur life. That I was watching, like, Eric Thomas was just coming out on YouTube at that time, and so I was watching speaking happen. I was starting to listen to Tony Robbins videos. I was starting to listen to like Joel Osteen. I remember listening to him in the beginning of the process. I was listening and going, "Ooh, I want that," but I recognized I was so far from that even being possible, being capable. I, at that stage in my life, was not capable of doing those things. I recognized I was not the man I needed to be that. So I was addicted. I was socially connected. I was seeing professional growth with, like, bartending at that time, making enough money. I was seeing performance in cheerleading. I was empty, and I wanted something other than what I was currently living. So I was as low as I could get. I would say it's like the negative version of astronaut depression. Once you go to the moon and you come back, like, what's after that? I had achieved everything that a 23-year-old was supposed to want to achieve, and this was not what I wanted. Mm-hmm. So I moved to Dallas, cold turkeyed it, finished a semester there, moved to Dallas, got connected into a gym and started my bodybuilding career. And so that just, I full sent it. I went, you would ask me here at the end of this of going, I am a bodybuilder. Mm. And so I was willing to do whatever it took to become a bodybuilder, because I was no longer an addict. I was no longer a cheerleader. I was no longer a college student. I was no longer a bartender. I was a bodybuilder. And so I changed that identity, and everything went with it. Right. Yeah.
It's a big thing. You know, I told you my story of, you know, my identity. I am a basketball player. And then I lost that. And that's kind of what pushed me towards the, you know, you're young, you want to be accepted. All the girls are partying like that. So I immediately went over into the party crowd, but I always knew that wasn't, like, who I was as a person. It never felt right to me. What was so you had that moment where that was the moment where you cold turkeyed it, went to Dallas, and then you became the bodybuilder. Mm-hmm. Did you ever think that it was a unhealthy thing that you were replacing one addiction for another? Because I know when I got involved in ultra running early in my recovery, that was the biggest thing I kept hearing is, you know, you're replacing one addiction for another. You know, you're replacing one addiction for another. So someone says that to you, what do you have to say?
If you interacted with me now, you would say those same things. I do ultra running now, and I do business consulting at that level now. So if you interacted with me now, I was on a podcast and someone said that I live in the lifestyle of full immersion. Mm-hmm. And so I think realistically people call full immersion addiction. Yeah. They can't understand how you could do this without being addicted to it. Right. And it's weird. I would say I'm living more in purpose now than I was then. And therefore, like, you're actually calling my purpose addiction then. Because that's the only way that you can understand that I'm able to do this at this level where I do give up other things for this thing now. Very similar to what I did for drugs back then. But yeah, man, I think we're supposed to, in some form or fashion, be addicted to all of the things. It's just worth all of the things being things that call bigger versions of us coming out. Right. You must study more. You must integrate more. You must regulate your nervous system more. You must get better at communication more. All of the things that cause us to grow, I do think there has to be some I call them our whys or our drivers. There has to be a driver that gets us to do the hard shit when it's hard to do.
Right.
And so, yeah, you can call it addiction. I call it alignment.
Dude, I love the word. I love how you just said submersion, because it would look like addiction to somebody that's never submerged themselves into something. And if you haven't, I would recommend that you go try to do that, because you're going to identify a passion, a purpose. And that's what happened with me in running. I discovered this running. I'm in treatment. I discovered this thing that lights this fire up under my ass.
Yeah.
I get put around the greatest group of people I've ever met. It's now put discipline back into my life, where I'm going to bed early. I'm drinking water. I'm waking up earlier. I'm around the greatest group of people I've ever met. Yeah. I'm going out and pushing myself farther than I ever thought was humanly possible.
Yes.
I'm getting a healthy dopamine hit of pushing myself through adversity, finishing a race. Somebody gives me a big fat medal around my neck. And we get bananas and gummy bears and all this good shit. But I remember having this conversation with a guy, and dude was overweight, smoking a cigarette with a Monster in his hand, telling me why I was replacing one addiction for another. And I was like, bro, like, I don't know if we can keep having this conversation, because I'm happy that I've found somewhere. If I have an addictive brain, I do, then that's what it is. I'm very happy that I've found something that I can latch onto and do it over and over and be really special at it. I say it all the time. Look at Michael Jordan. Look at Kobe Bryant. You tell me they don't have those same addiction attributes. They were just able to identify something healthy that they could do over and over and over again and become very special at it. So I think it's a great thing, and I definitely don't look down on you for it at all. You have a whole lot of athletic accomplishments. Yeah. And ones we haven't even scratched the surface on, that you just do on a whim. But kind of looking back at your athletic history, what do you think you're most proud of? Accomplishment-wise, feat-wise, team-wise, one sport, one race, one discipline? Because the gym does something very different for me than running does, than all the other things.
Yep. Probably a 100-mile race that I did last New Year's Eve. And the reason I say that is in March will be 3 years ago when I started a divorce. And I went into a really, I won't say dark place, because it was low, maybe aimless. I was in a very aimless place, kind of lost in the desert. I had connected my purpose to my marriage, and then when that fell away, I didn't really have a direction at that time. And I went to my mentor, and we were sitting here very similar like this at a smoothie place. And I said, Jose, I think I want to run 100 miles. And at that time, I had not ran a half. Most I'd done like a 5K a few times, maybe just through training of track and things. Like I'd run those distances, but nothing like this.
Right.
And he looked at me, and I'm 260 pounds at this time, and in the chair across from him, he's like, you're crazy. And we lived in Katy, Texas at the time, and right outside the smoothie place was a high school track. And my thought was I was just going to run the track for 24 hours. I was just going to send it. I was just going to, that's where I was going to do it. And so I said, I want to run 100 miles. And he looked back at me and he said, who do you need to become to be able to do 100 miles? And it only took 14 months later. 14 months later, about 8 weeks, I signed up for my first half marathon here in Austin. I did the Decker Challenge. It's just a super hilly half marathon race. And I finished that and was like, what am I getting ready for? About 14 months later, over New Year's Eve, 2024, going into 2025, I signed up for a 55-hour run till you drop. It's a 0.7 loop, 145 laps equals 100 miles. Every 12 hours, you change directions. You set up camp and you just send it. And I was like, oh yeah, this is it.
That was your 100?
That was my 100.
Damn, dude, that's a different beast right there, doing loops. That's a different beast.
Yep. And it was 2 overnights, New Year's Eve, so like fireworks and things over the second night. It was the time where I was my lowest, said something that I knew would require me to grow out of my lowest. All of my local circle, my family, my friends had heard me say 100 miles and all looked at me like, you're insane. Mm-hmm. And then 14 months later, I would do it. So talk like that full circle of dopamine hit of like, I'm not yet capable. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to become capable, became capable, did it, finished that race, and all of a sudden it increased my personal glass ceiling. Now all of a sudden I knew if anything was as hard as something below that, I could do it.
Yep.
So now all of a sudden, like, my expansiveness of like what is possible really, it changed. All of a sudden, now I travel for business. So like 3 a.m. at the airport to midnight into the hotel and get up the next morning to go into facility and deliver high level. That ain't worse than mile 80.
Right.
That ain't worse than mile 94 when I got hour 47 when I've got 6 more miles to go. Doesn't even bother me anymore.
Right.
So I think that moment alone right there, it increased my personal confidence. I now had evidence. It wasn't a belief. It wasn't, I knew I can. It wasn't, I will. It wasn't, I am. It was like, oh shit, here's evidence.
Right. Dude, that's one of the most profound moments that, I don't know about you, but when that happened in my life, one of the most profound moments ever. I can remember running the Bandera 100K, and Bandera is a qualifier for Western States. If you don't know what Western States is, it is the Super Bowl of 100 milers. It is the one you want to get into. And my first year in sobriety, started off, could barely run 2 miles, still smoking a pack of cigarettes a day.
Yep.
And I remember finishing the Bandera 100K and getting a ticket into
Yep.
a lottery ticket to get into Western States. And I remember looking around like, oh, this is way more than I thought a dope fiend like me was ever capable of. And that's what started reshaping of how I looked at myself. Instead of this addict, no, like, I'm a fucking ultra runner now. It was an empowering feeling. And then at least for me, it was like, I went to bed that night. I was like, well, never no need to run this far again. And then the next morning you wake up, you're like, I could do 100. Fuck it. Let's go. But, dude, doing that 100 and then looking at anything that I've come up against, there's still nothing that I know there'll be something, but there's still nothing yet that I've come up against that has been harder than that 100 miler. And I've been able to step over every single thing that's come in my path since then. So it's one of the most empowering things anybody can do. What's one of your biggest memories from the 100, from when you were running the race? Damn, you did loops the whole time. That's a different mental game right there, dude. I'd rather go point to point and have my mind engaged on terrain, not running. It was on the track or just a trail loop?
No, it was at a park, and so half of it was concrete, and the other part was just a dirt track. It was around a pond. We just sent it, man, and there was 260 people that signed up for the race, and so that many tents were around that 0.7 loop, and so you're literally running in between tents, and people are like cheering you on. It was a really cool dynamic. It's called the Snowdrop 55 Hour.
Okay.
And the layout was really cool. My memory. Yeah, it's like 3 a.m. the second overnight, and my feet are blistered down.
Did you stop and sleep at all?
I slept 3 hours total over the 50 hours. I was in bad shape, and my mom was doing my med at the time, so she stayed in the tent with me, and she looks at my feet, and she's like, hey.
Stop.
And I looked at her and I said, we need to make an agreement that, like, outside of health, we don't talk about it. Blood pressure, all that shit, cool. I'll white flag it for sure. Prior to that, if all we're talking about is suffering, she's seeing, like, by that time we're at like hour 40, 43, 44. I've got like 15, 16, 17 miles left. I've got a long way to go. And at that moment, like, everyone would have understood. Wow, great job, great. But like, I would have known that there was an amount of suffering that requires me to truly say I can't take another step. Can't take another step. And I had I had more. And so it was the time where my mom and I worked on a real cool relationship where all of a sudden, like, her son, the little boy that she had watched struggle through life and become an addict and struggle through addiction, now was sitting in front of her after a divorce, living in my own place, standing here with my chest up, suffering, going, no, I need more. That's when, like, all of a sudden our suffering starts to inspire others. Mm-hmm. That I had friends come by, and all of a sudden they had seen me suffer through this divorce. They had heard me cry. They had held space for me. They'd done all those things. And then they watched me do the 100-miler and stand, like, all of a sudden you go, oh, this is why. Mm-hmm. This is why I suffer. Yeah, so that moment at like 3 or 4 a.m., my feet are just wrecked. I'm wrecked. My mom's like, hey, proud, I'll be proud. And it's like, no, Mom, if suffering's the only thing now, I need you to support me. And I think there's a real cool place for the addict, for our personal circles, where the addict will have to suffer quite a bit to get out of the addiction. Mm-hmm. And when our circle can watch that and then watch us get to the other side and watch it be like, damn, this motherfucker really, he don't miss. Like, he says it, some unknown amount of time later, that shit happens. Mm-hmm. That's when, that moment right there. Yeah.
Dude, let's fucking go. That's beautiful, dude. I can distinctly remember it was around mile 70, 75, 80, somewhere in there. At my time, it's the middle of the night, and wet, cold, race all spaced out. I'm lonely, deep on the Appalachian Trail, and I remember sitting there thinking to myself, the one thing that I held on to the entire time was I didn't really tell any of my family that I was doing this. They all kind of knew, but I didn't know if they knew. But my grandma sent me a text that morning, and she said, "Sweetie," it makes me cry every time. She said, "Sweetie, if you ever get cold or lonely, just know that I'm following along from home on my iPad." And bro, that stuck with me. And so I get to mile 75, mile 80, and everything in my brain and my body is telling me, just fucking stop. Like, who is going to turn their nose up that I quit at mile 80? Yeah. Most of these people will never run 80 miles in their life all put together. Yeah. Who's going to turn their nose up at that? But I held on to my grandma the entire time. I was like, my grandma's following me. Could I really quit? Mm-hmm. Could I really quit right now? And that's what kept me going and got me over that hump. Mm-hmm. And thinking about the way I looked at ultra running or doing races, and I've done last man standing races, and those are without a doubt my least favorite. Mm-hmm. For sure. But that for me, I didn't go 2 days. I went one, you know what I mean? And there's people that run ultras and they run to do the distance, and then there's people that run out there to be fast, and how fast can they finish? And people think running this fast time or whatever is really hard. It's a whole lot fucking harder being out there for longer. Like, that's longer that you have to endure. So going through 2 nights is fucking hellacious. But I can remember that night being the loneliest night probably of my life. And then, dude, when that sun first came up and it hits your body and your body starts warming up and it starts becoming very real, like, holy fuck, like, I might pull this off. I might fucking do this. Mm-hmm. It's a feeling I wish I could just put into people. Mm-hmm. Like, you've never felt anything like that in your entire life. And when you do it, it's fucking life changing. Mm-hmm. So what was it like for you seeing that sun come up for that second morning and knowing you're on like home stretch and almost there?
That same time I was starting to train, I had moved out of the house that I lived in with my ex-wife and got my own place. And I have a Great Dane. Some Great Dane was at the apartment. Mm-hmm. So every day I was working full time. And so training for this, you'd have to do long runs, 20-mile numerous runs and marathons while training and things like that. So I had moved out of the house, got my own place, and still went to work, and still made laundry, still had food, still took care of the dog. I was still acquiring evidence at that time of like, oh, I was capable. Mm-hmm. I'm able to do this without the external driver of my marriage. Second day, Now we're on, again, hour 46, 47, 48. You're coming up, and I'm doing like 35-minute miles at that time. So the last 3 hours, I was only covering three miles.
Yeah.
Not far at all.
Right. Just trying to get one foot in front of the other.
And I think at that moment I was trying to fully register all of the pain. Not sit in celebration, because there was nothing to celebrate. Like I wasn't doing it for rah-rah. And when I crossed the finish line, what did we do? We had to go back, and I had to pack my own tent, put my own tent in my car, unload my own car back into my own apartment. No one was there. There was no big giant parade because I won the national championship. There was none of that. I went home and I got in the bathtub by myself, looking at my feet, having to med my own feet. I had to go to the gym to put on the compression sleeves by myself. Like, there was no one was coming. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden I recognized I was capable of. I got asked this question by, at that time, my run coach. He's got a podcast also named Austin. And I said, I had finally done something hard enough where I was actually like, man, I'm proud of you, my dude. Mm-hmm. Like, if I can't do it after 100 miles, I've got some shit I need to iron out. If at that moment I can't go like, nice job. Mm-hmm. You know what? You don't got to prove nothing no more. You don't got to try. You don't got to. Alignment, the term I use now is sovereign alignment. Now this thing, me doing hard shit, is now connected to like, no, this is the way that I feel fulfilled through life. Mm-hmm. I do hard things. The May after, 5 months later, I would run 760 miles in 1 month, 29 marathons in 31 days. Again, around a neighborhood. No one was there. There was no parade. It was about me acquiring evidence for myself that you can be a good boss, good friend, a good man, a good partner, a good person by yourself, solo. You can do all of those things and do really insane shit.
Yeah. Dude, I know for my 100-mile race, it was much more than it was a glamorous finish and like me celebrating and all that. My mom in the documentary, she breaks it down pretty good because the way I was talking with her, but it truly felt like to me that like with the more miles I ran in that race, it was like I was transforming who I was, and I stepped into this new person when I was done. Every step I took was the step away from that guy.
Yep.
And all the excuses and the addiction and the fucking poor me and the world hates me and all this shit.
Yep.
It was stepping away from that each mile. And I know there's a lot of people in the recovery world that might not think that's the way that you should look at those things. But I finished that race a different fucking human being, a different person. And it's a lot like you're saying. It was a tool up under my belt that was like, you know what? I fucking did this and I have this in my belt. So what else do we got? It was a much more empowering, confident feeling walking out of that and knowing what I was capable of. And it was sweat equity. It was knowing truly in those moments when shit gets tough and nobody's around to fucking pat you on the ass or anything, can you fucking keep going? Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing I say it on the podcast all the time. The one thing I know about myself is I'm willing to go to a lot of other levels that other people won't go just because I won't quit. That's the only difference to me starting a podcast, me starting social media, me doing this nonprofit, any of this. The only difference for me and anybody else that's out there doing this shit is I just didn't quit. It's the only difference. And it's one of the most valuable lessons I've ever learned in my entire life. And I got all that from one race. So, bro, God works in mysterious ways, dude. I'm so glad. I grew up an athlete, not like you, but even for somebody that has done the athletic, this hybrid athlete that you are, and done all these athletic things, that you could find this one athletic endeavor that could literally redefine who you were in a lot of ways. It's a fucking beautiful thing. Great metaphor for life. What would you got somebody out there right now that's listening to your story and all that stuff, and they resonate, but they're sitting in a hard spot. What would your advice for them be?
Go do hard shit. Go. And wherever that is for you, you should. So like if reading some self-help books is what's hard for you, hell yeah, you should start reading. If you don't like to read and you need to do YouTube, you should listen to YouTube. If you need to acquire some skills, so you need to go acquire something to be better at your professional, you should. If you know that you're lacking in your physical life, you should. You should go do hard shit. I have a concept called I am I. It's an infinite circle of first claiming who you are, I, the action part of am, so then go do things, and then figure out if what you're going to go do ends in the second I of like who you desire to be.
Right.
And so if those things are in alignment, then you should just go keep doing hard things. All of a sudden you do that long enough.
Kind of sounds like you're going back to that equation thing.
Yes, 100%. Yes. The exponent at the end of the equation is time immersion. How long can you stay in that state? Mm-hmm. And then if there's like a variance of skill set, you have a mentor. All he's able to do is he's able to stay at his level of performance longer than you are and has stacked that up. You know, if you do a 10 for a year and you're only capable of a 6 for a year, there's no way that you'll catch them.
Right.
So then you either have to do a 6 longer than they're doing a 10 and a lot longer, or you have to increase your 6 to be able to do better, more, higher. So like there is just longer than what you're doing, or more to speed it up.
Right.
And so I'm struggling right now to get up and go walk every day. 100 days. Go. And I do mean don't do 30. Because you'll do 30 and then you'll get there. Mm-hmm. And do something that you don't think. Set that bar so far ahead. Even if you fail the 100, let's say you do 94 and you fail at the 100, it was still longer than the 30 and you probably would have succeeded at the 30.
Yep.
But I think we avoid so much failure that we don't say 100 and we say 30 because we slightly know that we're going to be able to do it so we can reinforce the success loop. Mm-hmm. No. Go do that hard shit.
Yeah.
Put a fire underneath that ass and go do whatever you need to do that's hard. Lean into that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Good shit. I've been blessed. You came to the run group on Saturday and stuff like that. And for me, I grew up an athlete, and then, addiction happens and drugs, and I sit around and watch Netflix and get fat and then don't do shit. And so it was very, very intimidating for me to then step back out into the athletic world. Mm-hmm. You still, like a lot of guys, we hold on to the delusions of grandeur, how good we were at high school sports, and still think at 30 or 40 we're still this fucking athlete. Mm-hmm. And then you get out there and you get humbled pretty quick. But it's one of the biggest mental barriers I watch defeat people every day. And you being an avid athlete, I'm sure a lot of your social life is tied in with runs, workouts, stuff like that. Like if I'm going to go hang with somebody, I'd rather we go run together. I'd rather we go work out, go for a ruck, something like that. And oftentimes what I get are people who are like, immediately they defeat them. So they're like, I can't keep up with you, or I can't do that. It's like, that's not what I asked. I just said, do you want to go run? Do you want to go lift? Mm-hmm. I'm happy to go your pace because I want to go run with you. Do you get a lot of that? Where people are intimidated to say yes to go to on a run or a workout because they know it's something you do every day?
No, it's cool. I'll have people wanting to come interact with me in those spaces because they're needing a little bit of juice in their life. Mm-hmm. And so they'll come tap into a pretty hard workout and we'll talk about some pretty deep things and they're seeking some guidance, some help. And so we find connection and shared suffering.
Right.
Yes. 100-miler, some people would come and do a few miles with me. Why? Because they wanted to, I think it's why we love professional athletes is because we watch humans do insane things. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden we see capacity in them. So they come and they interact and they're like, man, you got up this morning and you did your breath work and you studied and you went to work and now you're doing a 10-mile run at 9:00 at night. Man, can I come join you? They're wanting to feel the capacity of a full day and then that. And I think it's that catalyst. I think I experience more people seeking catalyst. The people who are not yet ready don't really reach out to me because there is some fear in that.
Right.
A run for me, we've kind of done some stuff like a 5 mile run for me is casual. It's just enjoyment. We were able to talk and connect and things like that. But 5 miles to some people is the farthest they've ever run.
Right.
So I do recognize that my talking state is some others' full capacity. And so I think I've athletically shared space there. I've gotten to a point that unless people are willing to kind of jump on to do something hard with me, there's not much outreach. No.
Right.
Yeah.
So my question is, what's your advice to somebody who, they're intimidated to reach out to you or I just because they look at something that you or I do and they're like, oh, I'd never do that. But my whole thing is like just getting people to take that first step of do hard shit, show up to the gym. That's the hard thing for today, is just to walk through that door and show up there enough where you start to understand nobody gives a shit what you're doing. Nobody gives a shit what your form looks like. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
The people you're most intimidated of in that gym, the biggest, most jacked guys, are probably going to be the most nicest human beings on earth because they passionately do what they do and love to explain the things they do. So like somebody like that, what would your advice be to those people who are sitting on the couch today listening to this saying, I really want to do it, but I'm scared?
Yeah. Those guys that you're talking about are perfectly okay with flirting with their top RPE, their registered percent of exhaustion, how hard it is. They're pretty regular flirting with their 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. They love that space. That's why they're there doing it. That same guy respects you coming and doing your 8, 9, and 10. He doesn't need your 8, 9, and 10 to be the same as his 8, 9, and 10. What we respect is the 8, 9, and 10. So doesn't matter where yours is. What we're asking you to do is come give your 8, 9, and 10. Now, yes, please don't ask for your 8, 9, and 10 to be my 8, 9, and 10. I've been doing this for 20 years, 25 years. There's just different thresholds. There's just different levels to this. But if you come out and you give your 8, 9, and 10, we want to call that out in you. And watching you do your 8, 9, and 10, it calls our 8, 9, and 10 out also. And that's that shared suffering recognition that I think happens in that healthy gym space you're talking about. It's like, I want a chest bump with you on that 8, 9, or 10. And even if that's a 500-meter row and that's what you got today, but you're like, that's what I want to see.
Me too.
That, and let's do a little bit more of that. Tomorrow we'll do 5:03. Next one after that we'll do 5:10. Next one after that we'll do 5:25. It's the progressive overload of that 8, 9, or 10 that God, that's what we want to see. That's what we're calling out. I think that's what that healthy gym space is. I think we recognize a lot of that here in Austin. A lot of this Austin fitness community is like, just come be. And I think that's a powerful place to be. And in this space, I think we should surround ourselves where we aren't the smartest person in the room. Yeah.
This is right where my next thing was going is, and another thing that I preach about all the time is the importance of the people you surround yourself with. If you're surrounded with a bunch of people that are talking you out of going to the gym or saying it's okay to not do this or, hey, let's go to McDonald's, like those are just not the people I want around me. Not saying there's anything wrong with those people. Those are just the people I don't choose to surround myself with. I want people that are going to look at me and be like, hey, bro, that was a shit 8, 9, or 10. Get back under there.
Yeah.
Like those are the people I want because it's constantly making me raise my bar. And I know when I'm not raising the bar that I get that internal guilt that I didn't used to have because I just wanted to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Now I get guilty when I'm comfortable. And it's like I need to continually be around people that are constantly making me raise my game. So then I go do dumb shit like HYROX or fucking all this other shit that I never thought I'd be doing. Have you got into HYROX at all?
I have.
Have you done one?
Yeah, I've done numerous ones.
That's hold on. Who am I talking about? You did what? 10 in one day?
That's the goal. So that when we talk about the next future goal, it's going to be I'm calling it HYROX 10X.
Yeah.
So it'll be 10 back-to-back partner races. It'll end up being 50 miles and 80 stations.
So are you going to do this at an actual HYROX event, or you're going to do this on your own?
I'm going to be doing this here solo again, kind of like the May run I did.
That's
where
right.
I'll just kind of be putting an event together. I think I've really lost the need for it to be a race, and I just really enjoy doing difficult things. And so I set myself up to do a lot of situations that are just difficult style workouts and things. Last year I did a back-to-back HYROX with partner doubles. One, her name was Victoria, and then I did a close friend, Lakin. And so I just did back to back, and I had like 10 minutes in between. So my start race finish time, my next start time was about 15, 20 minutes later. So it took 10 minutes to just chill, got some food, went back to warm up with her, and started it again.
On that second one, were you already in your groove and ready to rock and roll, or were you cashed? Was the first one more like a warm up?
Yeah, there was some warm up in that. Yes, yeah. I was still in pretty good
like you were
running shape.
You were already in your flow in the second
very
one, where
much
you could
so.
just go right into pushing.
Yes, and I was. Lakin and I are very close. She was my chiropractor for the 100-mile prep, and we've built a personal relationship, and so she was able to come in and also give me a big boost of energy through that, where it was like, hey, let's do this together. That HYROX was also pushing her personally through her physical journey, and so we were able to, again, connection through shared suffering in that. At that time, again, I had said, hey, I want to do back-to-back HYROXs, and people were like, you're freaking insane. I don't know how you're going to do that. And Lakin was like, I mean, I guess I'd love to be second. Like, if you're going to do this, let's send it. And so there was some intentionality in doing back-to-back HYROXs, and that, again, that was right after the 100-miler. That was right before May, right before I had done May. So I was just pushing myself, kind of flirting with difficult things, and back-to-back HYROXs was it. I've done 2 solos, and then I've also done 2 more mixed doubles.
Dude, 10 in one day. Holy.
Can you imagine?
Bro, that's going to be
intense.
I want to do it.
Oh, I get it.
What's your training going to be for that?
A lot of mine is long compromised runs right now. So I did last week I did a 6.5 mile loop, and then I came back and I did a 1,000-meter row. I did a 1,000-meter skier. I did 50 dumbbell thrusters. I did 50 barbell squats. I did 50 bench press. And then I went back out and ran another 6.5 miles. So I got a half marathon in with exercise in the middle of it, and just doing that compromise style, increasing my ability to do mass amounts of volume from a rep standpoint.
Right.
And then be able to go back out and run, being able to eat in that. So I'm going to have to be able to eat. So I'm starting to test what foods work and what can I do and how can I do that, because all that stuff ends up being a factor that I think failing ends up being in the factors and not necessarily just in the training. It's all the other things too, being able to do that. And mentally, what happens picking those 10 people correctly, is the person doing the 7th one with me the correct person to do the 7th one with me, or should they be kind of the first one when I'm energized and we've shared some cool suffering. So like I would probably put someone that could pull something out of me deeper in the 10. And so just being intentional with some of those things is some of the stuff that I think allows those insane feats to be possible. Yeah.
Well, if I can help support you, I've already told you I want to get down on one of them. If I could be one of the 10, I'm in.
Can you imagine overnight,
Bro,
starting at 2 a.m. and
go.
sending a HYROX? Like, yeah.
2 a.m. is when I'm waking up.
That's
so I'm
right.
ready to rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's gonna be cool shit.
Yeah.
That's gonna be cool shit.
Yes, it is.
But that's the and I talk about I just learned the term misogi not long ago, but it's such a powerful thing to sign up for something that scares the shit out of you that you don't necessarily know if you're gonna. If you think about so that 10 HYROX is gonna take you all day and then into the next day.
Yeah, it'd probably take me 40 hours.
So no, we're not stopping to sleep or anything.
I probably won't sleep much through that. No, I'll probably push pretty hard through that. Eating food, feet care, I think is in that same scenario. Warming up with that person, I'll take advantage of instead of them coming up and warming up while I'm finishing it, I'll actually try and warm up with them. So again, I can almost come down out of a race, connect with them, get food in, increase. In races like that, you're looking to do about 100 to 150 grams of sugar every hour.
Oh, is it sugar? You want that quick?
Hard, yeah. Especially in the deep hours, you start getting to a point where your body really is out of internal glycogen, out of internal energy, and you have to constantly, when you're going that long, you run out of all energy. And if you're not putting back in for your body to digest, I also do candy, so then I get sugar in my mouth. I'll also eat oatmeal or put food in my stomach so it's digesting. So I'm putting a lot of food sources in that time, and I'll be intentional with rest times and stuff like that, because 10's the goal. So all out and getting 6, that's a failed equation. Right. So the 10 is the goal, and we'll do whatever it is to get 10.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny when you deplete yourself so much of food, how when you then reintroduce it in your body, how you feel it grab you. You can feel it energize you, feel it in your body. I'll never forget, one thing I never factored in, and I was still pretty young in my running career, when I did the 100-milers, I never factored in that I'm eating at every aid station, but I haven't sat down today. I never had a meal. So I've never had that one big surplus of calories that came in. And so by the time I got to mile 90, the sun had come up the next day, I'm fucking dead. You know what I mean? It's fucking, everybody's decimated by the end of this. And I remember getting 2 pieces of banana bread. And I ate those banana bread, and it was like somebody shot me full of ass full of steroids. I came alive, ready to go. And the guy that I was with, we were going to finish together, and he saw me get all this energy, and he's like, dude, just go. I'll see you at the end. Just go. And I was like, hi, if you're sure. And then I just start trucking at mile 90 like I'm fresh as hell just because I got that sugar and those carbs up in me.
Yes.
I can remember one time through the night I grabbed grilled chicken, and somehow I got a good energy burst off just protein, which you wouldn't think. Chicken of all things, no fats, no thing, but I got energy off that. But it's funny how you can deplete yourself and then feel it come in.
Yes.
Fruit and shit fucking hits, dude.
Yeah.
Big fan. What else? So what's life look like for you now? I know you do a lot of traveling with work. You're working with, sounds like an incredible company you told me about.
Yeah. I'm now a business consultant for a company called D1 Training. It's a franchise gym boutique that has a little over 170 facilities across the country. And so I work with full P&L management to frontline employee development and everything in between within that franchise space. And then my personal business is human performance and personal coaching with C-suite level people. Yeah. So I work with owners, executives, lawyers, doctors, high-level people that are looking to do human performance outside of just like raw. It's the equation. We're going to get into the equation. We're really going to pull apart life and really see where we can make small changes and have huge impact. When we're working at that level of people, they don't have they're not lacking 30%.
Right.
They're lacking 7%, and they're wanting to get the rest of the 7.
Right.
And so I do business consulting and then high-level human performance coaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we got the 10 HYROX coming up. What else is on the horizon for you, physical feat-wise? We got big races, anything like that this year?
This year, I've currently set out finishing my personal app and writing my book.
Okay.
My background is in public speaking also, so getting back to a place of doing a lot more speaking. Corporate speaking, so I do education, corporate speaking also. So I think just growing the vision now, I think, is where it's at. I'm not really looking or searching where I once was. Kind of, we've talked about those stages. Now I'm in alignment and I know, and so now I'm just doing. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of I picked up coding, so I'm writing code for my personal app. I'm deep in my book right now, doing the HYROX 10X. I think I try and break down those big time goals in quarters, every 3-month cycles. I have year vision. I have 5-year vision. I have those things, but those are all built by very intentional quarters. And so that's so far just this quarter. Yeah.
Gotcha. We need to get together on the on the motivational speaking stuff, because I got some ideas for Austin. Let's fucking do it.
Yeah.
Fun question for you. It's my favorite question. I ask it every podcast. Tonight, you're walking out for the UFC heavyweight championship of the world. What is your walkout song? That one song that just gets you going, ready to wreck shop.
I don't listen to much music.
Okay.
There's an old audio, one of Eric Thomas's first videos that went viral. It says, if you want it as bad as you want to breathe, then you can be successful. There's about a 7-minute montage that came out, I guess now about 13 years ago. That would be one that I go back to regularly. Tells a short story about a guru says to a young guy, hey, meet me at the beach. The guru says, why? He says, don't worry about it. Young guy shows up the next morning about 5 a.m. to the beach. Guru says, I want you to get out in the water. He says, what are you talking about? Goes out in the water. Guru puts his head underwater. Holds him down so long that he starts flailing. Pulls him back up. He says, what did you want to do when you were down there? The guy says, breathe. He said, when you want it as bad as you wanted to breathe in that moment, if you want it that bad, anything is possible. I think that regular, because there's still some nostalgia when I listen to that. I remember who I was when I listened to that. I was getting sober listening to that. And at that time, sobriety, getting sober, listening to that, it was this like, I call it the stage of our God of War. I was receiving high amounts of energy and I was futurely projecting like, yeah, it's possible. And now I'm sitting in what I was dreaming of then. I'm living what I was dreaming of then. So I think in this moment, that would probably be what I go to of like getting connected again to all that old version of me. I was sitting here now, like taking this in, and like, holy shit, my journey's taking me here. Mm-hmm. You know, some gratitude. That song would probably be the thing that's like, I remember. Yeah.
Dude, great answer.
Yeah.
Great answer. Dude, I've definitely know who he is, and I haven't listened to a ton of him, but I heard a story about him, and it shaped a lot of what I do. Mm-hmm. And as I got into the public speaking thing, I started getting asked to be at these different speaking events where everybody's wearing suits and stuff like that, and that's not me. You know what I mean? I'm not that guy. And so I was walking into this speaking world or whatever, kind of insecure that I'm all tatted up, and I didn't go to speaking school like these people. And I quickly started to realize it's authenticity, that what people grabs people. And I would go speak, and I can go speak with anybody else in a suit, and I would be the one that was grabbing attention for some reason. And so I heard a story about him, and that he was getting booked to do what was at the time the biggest speaking. Do you know the story? So then I'm going to butcher it, and you probably know it better. But the way I heard it and listened to it was he was going to get booked for what was going to be his biggest payday as far as a speaker was. But the only thing was he had to wear a suit jacket, and his thing was a hat and white T-shirt.
Yeah.
And he said, no, I'm not doing it. And so they said, all right. And then he lost that deal, and then it turned right back around that he got one for way more money because he was so authentic and stuck to his guns. And that right there was the moment where you can look back on podcasts, and you can look back into where I was wearing like regular, we'll say street clothes. And from that moment is when I leaned all the way in on I Am Redemption, on who I am, on not dressing in plain clothes when I come onto a podcast, but I'm going to be me, and I'm going to be all the way fucking me. The way I talk, the way I act, this is truly who I am. And the moment that I did that is when I Am Redemption started to really form into what it's become and stuff like that. And so if and when I ever get to meet that dude, he's got a big handshake coming from me, because that was something I needed to hear. So beneficial. Now you make me want to go listen to him. I feel like I've been missing out for sure. All right, dude. Last and most important question. I've been blessed to have you on the show. I look forward to continuing to get to know you better. But everybody's tuned in. They've heard a little bit about your story, and they kind of know who you are. But if you'd be so kind and take a look in your camera and maybe throw on some I am statements to let the people know who you truly are.
So before every race, I have mantras.
Okay.
So I'm going to do my pre-race mantra.
Perfect.
I am capable of doing hard things. I have thrived in pain that make others quit. I don't